Comedian Jim Norton of the Opie with Jim Norton show on XM was apparently not much of a fan of Marco Rubio's stated abortion views, which he expressed on the debate last week. So Jim Norton tweeted this: "At Marco Rubio, I hope someone forcibly comes in your ass and then some religious zealot won't let you wipe it out for 9 months." Whew. Those are fighting words there from Jim Norton.
First of all, it looks like Jim's lost some weight. He looks good.
Oh, definitely. He's super skinny.
He's getting, yeah, I'm
Used to be heavier, but no, he's
much
super skinny.
punchier.
Last couple of years.
He's got his act together.
Yeah. So what do you think about the tweet? He was obviously attacked. People are saying, like, you know, you're making rape jokes and you're making light of rape and you're saying you want someone to rape a presidential candidate, launching all of these bombs at Jim Norton there. What do you think?
Yeah. Even if he was saying all those things, not half as horrible as what Marco Rubio said.
That is 100% true.
Marco Rubio.
And he's not even saying those things. But if he was.
Even if he was saying it. Even if you're saying, hey, Marco Rubio, you want a 12-year-old rape victim to carry her baby to term at the hands of the government because it would make you feel better to have a 12-year-old rape victim carry their baby to term?
Yeah.
That's the worst thing I can think of.
Yes.
Right? So now saying that, oh, maybe you should have to discover what it's like to live with your own policies is not a bad thing to say.
Yeah. Marco Rubio would probably say, you know, look, it's horrendous and it's unconscionable, it's unthinkable, but yes, for some reason he can get past all of those things and still want the policy.
Yeah.
Now look, before we get to some of the attacks against Jim Norton and also his response to it, just in case you did not blessedly catch the GOP debate, here is Marco Rubio talking about abortion, defending his policies.
You favor a rape and incest exception to abortion bans. If you believe that life begins at conception, as you say you do, how do you justify ending a life just because it begins violently through no fault of the baby?
Well, Megan, first of all, I'm not sure that that's a correct assessment of my record. I would go on to add that I believe all human life.
You don't favor a rape and an incest exception?
I have never said that, and I have never advocated that. What I have advocated is that we pass law in this country that says all human life at every stage of its development is worthy of protection. In fact, I think that law already exists. It's called the Constitution of the United States. And I think future generations will look back at this history of our country and call us barbarians for murdering millions of babies who we never gave them a chance to live.
I think a lot of people around the globe are calling Americans barbarians right now, but not necessarily for that reason.
Yeah, I don't
think it has
think.
to do more with our foreign policy.
Because they have the same medical procedures that the rest of the advanced world has?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think they're going to be called barbarians for that.
So look, back to his tweet. Look, he's a comedian. Like, every artist who is interested in society or interested in politics, interested in the real world, they use their medium to cast light on hypocrisy or horrendous behavior. Like, they use what they have. If they have paint, they use that. If they're a singer, they use words and music. A comedian uses comedy. And so I can understand why a lot of people would be very uncomfortable with what Jim Norton says here, but to say that he can't make a joke about that is to say that as an artist, he must be silent. And I think that that's ridiculous. I think that very often, especially in American history, it is the comedians, like Jon Stewart, for instance. We just lost one of the best ones. He didn't die or anything, but he stopped doing his show. Or George Carlin, or the list could go on, who are willing to show how ridiculous the things these politicians say are by using comedy to demonstrate it. And so I think it would be ridiculous to say that Jim Norton is wrong there. And by the way, like, I understand a lot of people very sensitive. Rape is one of the most sensitive topics in the world. People don't like to see it joked about. But behind the literal words there, he is defending women. He is standing up for women's rights there. He is attacking Marco Rubio, not rape victims. Don't get that twisted.
Yes, he's using vulgarity, which is the parlance of his art. Mm-hmm. He's using vulgarity to make a point, but the point is spot on, right? Yeah. Jim Norton's right on this one. Yeah. So you know, his heart is pure and he uses vulgarity. I don't mind vulgarity. I like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I love it.
It doesn't make me feel bad. When I was a kid, swear words always delighted me. When I heard George Carlin's 7 Dirty Word, I loved it. So these are just people, again, this is to pretend I'm upset at your vulgarity and the words you use, but the idea you can't disagree with. Yeah. So I'm so
and they don't want to deal with the idea, so they attack the delivery mechanism.
Right. Exactly. So the idea is that what Marco Rubio is saying is much more reprehensible than what Jim Norton is saying. Much more backwards, dark age thinking.
Yeah. But unfortunately, in America today, man, we love to attack comedians. That's one of the things that the internet seems to be designed for, is to attack
People
comedians.
don't understand that comedians don't live in your world. I don't care that you're upset that I'm vulgar or whatever. I'm not in your world. That's what makes comedians like attractive to people, is that they're doing something that it's forbidden.
Yeah.
They're outside of normal society, and comedians do the things and say the things that you can't do or are afraid to do or will get fired for doing, and you have to let them do their jobs.
Yeah, 100%. And you don't have to listen to his show on XM.
Don't have to listen.
One of several shows.
Right.
By the way, for you to have seen this tweet, it either had to be published on one of the blogs, who wants you to see it, even though they say you should never see it, or you had to follow him on Twitter, almost certainly.
Right.
But anyway, he tweeted this: anyone who thought my Marco Rubio tweet was me literally wanting him raped is even stupider than he is for his stance on abortion after rape. So I think, look, he gets a 100% pass. And by the way, that program, Opie with Jim Norton, which I listen to, that's one of the only things I listen to on XM, previously was Opie and Anthony, and obviously Anthony and Jank, obviously the host on our network, had a major feud over Anthony's outburst on the streets, or on Twitter after his encounter with a black woman on the streets of New York City.
Had a feud with Anthony?
Oh yeah,
I did not
they were
know
tweeting
this.
back hardcore.
Oh really?
So the ironic thing is, I've been listening to Jim Norton and that show for probably like 12 years. If he even knows who we are, he probably hates us after that outburst. But we're defending you today, buddy.